The
The
fog rolled in
operation is
thick from
imminent.
the
Mission
Pacific
is
that
critical.
morning,
Understood,
clinging to
sir. We are
Camp
ready.
Pendleton
Good.
like a living
Stay sharp.
thing, gray and cold and dense. The kind of silence that comes before thunder. 1,000 Marines stood in perfect formation on the parade ground, dress uniforms sharp enough to cut glass, boots polished to mirrors, eyes forward. Not a single man moved, not a breath, not a sound. The only noise was the
Keep
distant
pushing,
crash of
almost there.
waves against the
Copy that.
shore
Staying
and
with
the
you.
faint
Watch the
snap of
depth, keep
flags
low.
in the wind.
Got it.
Lieutenant Kiera Vance stood in the rear formation, 28 yards from the reviewing stand. 29 years old, 5'7", lean build. The kind that comes from carrying 70 pounds through mountains for miles without stopping. Her uniform was pressed crisp, creases sharp enough to draw blood. Dark hair pulled back tight in a regulation bun, face that gave nothing away, eyes that looked through you, not at you. Cold, empty. The eyes of someone who'd seen things most people couldn't imagine. On her left wrist, just below her watch, she wore a thin black band, simple, plain. She touched it sometimes when she was thinking. Most people never noticed it. Those who did never asked what it meant. Rear Admiral Victor Harlan stood at the reviewing stand, 2 stars gleaming on his collar. 57 years old, 33 years in the Navy, most of it behind desks, push papers, attend meetings, make speeches. He believed in tradition, in order, in the way things had always been, in the way things should always be. He was giving a speech about warrior culture, about maintaining the fighting spirit that built the greatest military in history, about honor and sacrifice and the price of freedom. The Marines listened respectfully, faces blank, professional. They'd heard variations of this speech 100 times. Then Harlan stopped mid-sentence, his eyes locked on Kiera. He stared too long. 10 seconds. 15. The silence stretched. Marines in the front rows shifted slightly. Something was wrong. Harlan turned to Colonel Marcus Grayson beside him, leaned in close. But his microphone was still live. Every word carried across the parade ground like a gunshot. "Who is that?" Grayson's voice was quiet, controlled. "Lieutenant Vance, sir, Navy. She runs our advanced tactics program." Harlan's jaw tightened. "I didn't ask what she does. I asked who authorized a woman to stand in formation with Marines." "She's fully qualified, sir. One of our best instructors." "I'll be the judge of that." Harlan stepped down from the platform. The microphone was still live. Every Marine on that parade ground heard every word. 1,000 witnesses. He walked straight toward Kiera, boots clicking on pavement, each step deliberate, purposeful, angry. Every Marine turned to watch. Protocol forgotten. This wasn't normal. This wasn't how things worked. Kiera didn't move, just stood at attention, eyes forward. Breathing steady. Harlan stopped 2 feet in front of her, close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath, close enough to violate every regulation about personal space. "You don't belong here, sweetheart." His voice was loud, amplified by the microphone still clipped to his uniform. Every word echoed across the parade ground. "This is a warrior's world, a man's world. You think you're tough? You think you've earned the right to stand here with real warriors?" Kiera said nothing, just looked at him with that cold, unwavering stare. The kind of eyes that had seen things, done things, survived things, the kind that didn't flinch. Something about that look made Harlan angrier. The silence, the lack of reaction, the complete absence of fear or shame or deference. "Answer me when I'm speaking to you, Lieutenant." Still nothing, just that calm, empty stare. Harlan's hand came up fast, a backhanded slap that cracked across her jaw with enough force to snap her head sideways. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Blood appeared instantly, a split lip, red drops falling onto gray pavement, dark spots spreading on the concrete. Kiera didn't flinch, didn't step back, didn't raise her hand to her face. She straightened slowly, turned her head back to center, and looked at him again. Her hands stayed at her sides. Her breathing didn't change. She just stood there bleeding, completely calm, completely controlled. For a moment, nobody moved. 1,000 Marines stood frozen. An admiral had just struck a subordinate officer in front of everyone, in front of witnesses, on camera. This was assault. This was illegal. This was career-ending. Harlan's voice was shaking now. You're dismissed. Get off my parade ground. Kira raised her hand in a slow, perfect salute. Then she turned and walked away. Back straight, boots clicking, blood dripping from her chin onto her uniform. She didn't look at anyone, didn't acknowledge the stares, just walked. The silence behind her was absolute. Kira walked straight to the barracks bathroom and locked the door. She stood at the sink, looking at her reflection. Blood on her chin. Swelling starting on her cheek. The cut on her lip would need attention, but she'd had worse. Much worse. She ran cold water, cleaned the blood off her face, pressed a wet towel against her mouth. The physical pain didn't bother her. Pain was just information, her body telling her it hurt. So what? Acknowledge it. Move on. She'd been through Hell Week at BUD/S. 200 miles of running and walking with almost no sleep. Hypothermia, hallucinations. Guys twice her size quit because their minds broke before their bodies did. She'd been shot at. She carried a dying man 200 meters under enemy fire. A split lip was nothing. What bothered her was the anger. She'd spent 6 years learning control, learning to stay calm when everything around her was chaos, learning to make decisions without emotion clouding judgment. And right now, every instinct wanted to go back out there and put Victor Harland on the ground. Wanted to show him exactly what kind of warrior she was. Wanted to make him understand what a mistake he'd just made. She closed her eyes. Took 3 slow breaths. Let the anger drain away like water through her fingers. Her father's voice echoed in her head. Master Sergeant James Vance, Force Recon Marine, Desert Storm veteran, Navy Cross recipient, Wraith. That's what they called him. Because he moved through enemy territory like a ghost. Silent, invisible, deadly. He'd raised her alone in rural Wyoming after her mother died giving birth. Taught her to shoot, track, hunt, survive. Taught her to keep control no matter what. His favorite saying, repeated so many times it was carved into her bones. Anger gets you killed, baby girl. In Kafji, I watched men die because they got angry, lost their heads, made stupid decisions. Ice in the veins, always. No matter what they do to you, no matter what they say. Keep control. Kira touched the black band on her left wrist. Underneath was a tattoo. Small, simple, black script. Wraith's Blood, 1960 to 2021. The day her father died. She'd made him a promise that day, that she'd keep doing the job, that she'd never let anger or fear control her, that she'd be calm in the storm no matter what it cost, that she'd honor everything he'd taught her. And today, she'd kept that promise. Then her phone rang. Colonel Grayson. Lieutenant Vance, report to my office immediately. She straightened her uniform, checked her reflection one more time. The bleeding had stopped. The swelling would get worse before it got better, but she could handle it. She walked out. Whatever came next, she'd handle it with control, with silence, with the kind of strength that didn't need to be loud. When Kira walked into Grayson's office, Harland was already there, standing by the window, arms crossed, face red. He wouldn't look at her. Grayson sat behind his desk, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the last 30 minutes. His jaw was tight. His hands were clenched. He gestured to a chair. Lieutenant, sit down. I'm fine here, sir. Grayson's voice went hard. Sit down. Kira sat, kept her eyes forward, kept her face neutral. Grayson looked at Harland, then at Kira, then back at Harland. Rear Admiral Harland has filed a formal complaint. He's alleging insubordination and conduct unbecoming an officer. He's requesting that you be removed from your assignment at Camp Pendleton. Kira said nothing, just sat there, waiting. Harland turned from the window. His voice was cold, controlled. She disrespected me in front of 1,000 Marines. That kind of behavior can't be tolerated. She undermined my authority. She stood there with contempt in her eyes. She refused to answer when I questioned her qualifications. Grayson's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. You struck her, sir, in front of those same 1,000 Marines. That's assault under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 128, battery. You could face court-martial. I was correcting an officer who had no business being on that parade ground. She's a training instructor. She's not a line Marine. She doesn't belong in a combat formation. That's not your call to make, Admiral. And even if it were, you don't have the authority to strike a subordinate officer. You don't have the authority to assault anyone. Harlan's hands were shaking now, barely visible, but Kira saw it. Fine. If she thinks she's qualified to train Marines, then let's test that. Put her through the advanced combat assessment, 3 full days. The same evaluation we use for force recon candidates. If she completes it, I'll drop the complaint. If she quits, she's gone from Pendleton. Permanently. Grayson looked at Kira, really looked at her. Lieutenant, you don't have to agree to this. What he did was illegal. We can file charges, we can have him arrested. Kira was quiet for a long moment, thinking, calculating, weighing options. Then she met Harlan's gaze without flinching. 3 days. Harlan nodded. 3 days. Full mission profile. The same evaluation we use for force recon candidates. Navigation, building clearance, tactical scenarios, mass casualty, escape and evasion. Most people quit by day 2. 90% failure rate. And if I complete it, I drop the complaint. You stay at Pendleton. You keep your assignment. Kira turned to Grayson. Sir, I'll do it. Grayson shook his head. Lieutenant, I'm ordering you not to. This is a setup. He wants to break you. He wants to humiliate you. He wants to prove that women don't belong in combat roles. With respect, sir, I'll do it. Harlan smiled, cold, mean. Good. Report to the training area at 0500 tomorrow morning. Bring your gear. Full combat load. We'll see how long you last, sweetheart. Kira stood, saluted both officers, turned and walked out without another word. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from the effort of staying calm, from the weight of what she'd just agreed to. But she knew what this really was. Harlan wanted to humiliate her, wanted to prove that women didn't belong in combat roles, wanted to use her failure as an example, wanted to break her in front of everyone. What he didn't know was that Kira had already been through worse, much worse, and she'd survived by doing exactly what her father taught her. She touched the black band on her wrist, thought about Wraith, about the promise she'd made. Then she headed to her quarters. She had 18 hours to prepare. Kira's quarters were sparse. Regulation bed, footlocker. Desk with a single photo frame. The photo showed a man in desert camouflage, lean, hard, weathered, holding a K-bar knife, eyes that looked like hers, cold, calm, dangerous. Master Sergeant James Vance, Kuwait, 1991. She sat on her bed and stared at the photo. Wyoming, 2006. She was 10 years old. Her father had moved them to a cabin in the mountains after he retired in 2005. Middle of nowhere. Just them, the wilderness, and the ghosts Wraith carried from the Gulf War. From Mogadishu. From places he never talked about. Places that showed up in his nightmares. Places that made him wake up screaming. He started training her that first winter. Real training. The kind that saved lives in combat. She remembered that first morning. Snow on the ground. Temperature below 0. Wind cutting through her jacket like knives. Wraith woke her at 0430. Get dressed, baby girl. We're going for a walk. He handed her a backpack. 30 pounds. For a 10-year-old girl who weighed 70 pounds soaking wet, it might as well have been 100. We're going to walk 10 miles today. You're going to carry that pack the whole way. You're going to keep up with me, and you're not going to complain. Why, Dad? He knelt down, looked her in the eyes. Because one day someone's going to tell you that you can't do something. They're going to tell you that you're not strong enough, not good enough, not tough enough, and you're going to prove them wrong. But first, you have to prove it to yourself. They walked 20 miles that day. She cried for the last 5, but she didn't quit. Didn't ask him to stop. Didn't ask him to take the pack. just kept walking, one foot in front of the other, until they reached the cabin again. Wraith made hot chocolate, sat her down. You did good today, baby girl, real good. But we're going to do it again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that.
Until your body doesn't even think about quitting. Until walking 20 miles is just what you do. That became their routine. Every morning. Rain, snow, sun. They walked. They ran. They climbed. He taught her to shoot, to track, to move through the forest without making a sound, to survive in conditions that would kill most people. But the real lessons were deeper, more important. Anger makes you sloppy. Fear makes you stupid. Pain is just information. Control is the only thing that matters. He'd been in Khafji during the Gulf War, Battle of Khafji, January 30 to 31, 1991. When Iraqi forces pushed across the border into Saudi Arabia and the Marines had to push them back. Street fighting, urban combat, close quarters. Wraith was force recon, deep behind enemy lines, intelligence gathering, direct action. The kind of missions nobody talked about. The kind that didn't make it into official reports. He earned his Navy Cross there, saved 8 Marines when their position got overrun, Killed 3 enemy soldiers with his K-bar knife when his rifle jammed, stayed calm while hell erupted around him, made decisions without emotion, brought his people home. But he also watched men die. Good men, friends, brothers. Some of them died because they panicked, because they got angry, because they let fear control them, because they stopped thinking and started reacting. I learned something in that desert, he told Kira when she was 16. They were sitting on the porch cleaning rifles, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and red. I learned that the warrior who stays controlled wins. The one who keeps his head while everyone else is losing theirs. That's the one who survives. That's the one who brings his people home. He looked at her, really looked at her. You're going to be a warrior, baby girl. I can see it in you. You've got the eyes, the focus. You don't quit when things get hard, but you have to remember something. What, Dad? Anger is poison. It'll get you killed. It'll get the people around you killed. Keep your mind cold. No matter what they do to you, no matter what they say, no matter how much you want to rage and scream and fight, Wraith's mantra, control above all else, always. Kira came back to the present, sitting on her bed at Camp Pendleton, the photo of her father in her hands. She'd kept that lesson through BUD/S training, through 4 combat deployments, through the day Captain Evan Garrett died in her arms. Control above all else. Tomorrow, she'd prove it again. Kira couldn't sleep. She got up at midnight, dressed in PT gear, walked to the armory. The base was quiet, just her boots on pavement, distant ocean waves, wind through palm trees. She checked out her rifle, M4A1, standard issue. She'd carried the same weapon through Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen. She knew every scratch on it, every quirk, every tiny imperfection. She took it to the cleaning station, started breaking it down. The ritual helped. Familiar motions, smell of gun oil, focus required. Her mind drifted to another memory, Wyoming, 2019. Her father was dying, pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctors gave him 3 months. He lasted 6 out of pure stubbornness, out of refusal to quit before he was finished teaching her everything he knew. She came home on emergency leave, found him in his workshop trying to clean his old K-bar knife, the one from Khafji. Blood grooves still stained dark from 30 years ago. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold it. She took it from him, cleaned it in silence while he watched. "You're going to be fine without me," he said finally. His voice was weak, raspy, the cancer eating him from the inside. "I know, Dad." "No, you don't. But you will." He paused, breathing hard, each breath a fight. "I trained you for a war, baby girl. I prayed you'd never have to fight. But if they test you, if they doubt you, if they try to break you, remember what I taught you. She kept cleaning the knife. I know, Dad. You've told me. I need to tell you more than that. He reached over, took her hand. His grip was weak, trembling. They're going to tell you that you don't belong, that women can't do this job, that you're not good enough, and you're going to prove them wrong. Not with words, with action, with silence, with skill. He pulled out a worn leather case. Inside was his K-bar, the one from Kafji, the blade stained with the blood of 3 men who tried to kill his Marines 30 years ago. This blade saved my life. Killed 3 enemy soldiers when my rifle failed. Now it's yours. Dad, I can't take this. Yes, you can. And you will. He pressed it into her hands. When they doubt you, remember you're not just Kira Vance. You're Wraith's daughter. You've got my blood, my training, my ghost watching over you. You understand? She nodded. Couldn't speak. Too many emotions. He died 3 weeks later, in January 2021. She'd been holding his hand when he took his last breath. His final words were barely a whisper. Make me proud, baby girl. Don't let emotion decide. She'd made him a promise right then, that she'd never quit, never let anger control her, never give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her break, that she'd honor everything he'd taught her, everything he'd sacrificed to make her into a warrior. And she'd kept it through everything that came after. Kira finished cleaning her rifle, reassembled it, ran a function check. Perfect. Every part moving exactly as it should. She looked at her watch. 02:30. 2.5 hours until she had to be at the training area. She went back to her quarters, opened her footlocker. Inside was a small leather case, her father's K-bar, the one from Kafji. She pulled it out. The blade was still stained. She'd never cleaned the blood groove. Wraith had told her not to. That's history. That's proof. That's a reminder that sometimes good men have to do terrible things to protect the innocent. Keep it. She strapped the knife to her vest where it belonged. Then she lay back on her bed, closed her eyes, not to sleep, just to center herself, to find that cold, calm place her father had taught her to access, the place where emotion didn't exist, where there was only mission, only objective, only the next step. Tomorrow, Victor Harland was going to try to break her. He was going to throw everything at her: physical exhaustion, mental stress, psychological warfare. He wanted her to quit, wanted her to fail, wanted to prove that women didn't belong. But he didn't know who he was dealing with. He didn't know about the Wyoming winters, the 20-mile forced marches in the snow, the hand-to-hand combat training in abandoned barns, the rifle training in negative temperatures until her fingers went numb. He didn't know about Bood/S, about Hell Week, about carrying boats on her head for 20 hours straight, about hypothermia so bad she couldn't feel her legs, about instructors screaming in her face while she did push-ups in the surf zone. He didn't know about Afghanistan, about the helicopter crash, about dragging Captain Garrett through 200 meters of enemy fire. And he definitely didn't know about James Vance, about Wraith, about the ghost who'd trained her from age 10 to be exactly what she was. Harlan thought he was testing some young female officer who got lucky, some diversity hire who didn't deserve to be there. He was about to learn the truth. Kira opened her eyes, looked at the ceiling, touched the black band on her wrist, felt the tattoo underneath. Wraith's blood, 1960 to 2021. I'm ready, Dad, she whispered to the darkness. I'll make you proud. I won't let them break me. And she wouldn't, no matter what came next, no matter what Harlan threw at her, no matter how much it hurt. She would maintain control, always. 0500 hours. The training area east of Pendleton. Dark, cold, fog so thick you couldn't see 20 feet ahead. The kind of fog that swallowed sound, that made the world feel smaller, more isolated. Kira stood at the starting point, full combat load, 60-pound pack, body armor, helmet, rifle, water, medical kit, everything she'd need for 3 days in the field. Everything strapped down tight, nothing rattling, nothing loose.
professional. Harland was there with two evaluators. Gunnery Sergeant Wyatt Callahan, 58 years old, 20 years in the Corps, Force Recon veteran, hard eyes, the kind of man who'd seen combat, who'd done the job, who knew what it cost. Staff Sergeant Devin Kane, 42 years old, 15 years in, combat veteran, female. She looked at Kira with something that might have been respect, or maybe pity, hard to tell. Harlan checked his watch.
You ready, Lieutenant? Yes, sir. The rules are simple. 3 days, 5 major evolutions: navigation, tactical problem solving, combat scenarios, casualty evacuation, escape and evasion. You fail any one evolution, you're done. You quit at any time, you're done. You have any injuries that require medical evacuation, you're done. Understood? Understood, sir. Harlan's eyes were cold, empty. Your father barely made it through Kofji, Lieutenant. Let's see if you have his genes. Kira said nothing, just looked at him with those flat, empty eyes. The eyes that had seen things, done things. The eyes that didn't flinch. Harlan smiled, mean, satisfied. Your first objective is 30 kilometers north. You have 6 hours. If you're late, you fail. Good luck, sweetheart. He got in his vehicle, drove away, taillights disappearing into the fog. The evaluators followed in another truck. Kane gave Kira one last look. Something in her expression. Something complicated.
Then she was gone too. Kira was alone in the dark. Just her, the weight on her back, and 30 kilometers of rough terrain between here and the first checkpoint. She adjusted her pack, settled the straps, checked her compass, started walking. The fog swallowed her completely. 1 foot in front of the other. Keep control, always. 30 kilometers with 60 pounds on your back is brutal under any conditions. In the dark, in the fog, over rough terrain, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a test of will more than body. The terrain was unforgiving. Steep hills that seemed to go on forever, loose rocks that shifted under her boots, thick brush that caught on her gear and tore at her uniform. Every step was a calculation, every movement deliberate. Kira's legs were burning after the first hour, the pack straps cutting into her shoulders, the weight pressing down on her spine, her lower back screaming. After 2 hours, her shoulders felt like they were on fire, the straps digging deeper, creating pressure points that would turn into bruises. Her feet were developing blisters. She could feel them forming, hot spots that would burst and bleed before this was over. After 3 hours, every step hurt. Her quads were shaking, her calves cramping, her breathing ragged. The fog had lifted slightly, but the sun was climbing and the temperature with it. Sweat soaked through her uniform, salt stinging her eyes, but she kept moving, step after step, breathing steady, mind focused. She'd done this before. Hell Week at BUD/S. 200 miles of running and walking with almost no sleep. 5.5 days of constant movement, constant pain, constant pressure, hypothermia, hallucinations, guys twice her size crying, quitting, ringing the bell. She'd made it through that. She could make it through this. Hour 4. The sun was burning through the fog now, temperature climbing into the 70s. Her vision was narrowing, tunnel vision. Classic sign of exhaustion. Her body trying to conserve energy by limiting what she could see. She thought about Wyoming, about the forced marches with her father, about being 10 years old and wanting to quit so badly it physically hurt, wanting to cry, wanting to stop, wanting her father to tell her it was okay to give up. But he never did. He just kept walking, kept moving forward, and she followed. Because that's what warriors did. They kept moving when everyone else stopped. They pushed through when everyone else quit. They finished when everyone else failed. Wraith's voice in her head, clear as day, like he was running beside her. Pain is just information, baby girl. Your body's telling you it hurts. So what? Acknowledge it, then keep moving. Pain doesn't kill you. Quitting kills you. She kept moving. Hour 5.
She was hallucinating now, seeing shadows that weren't there, movement in her peripheral vision, her mind playing tricks on her. Dehydration, exhaustion, the body shutting down non-essential functions. Then she saw him, her father, running beside her, desert camouflage, K-bar on his hip, smiling that quiet smile he had, the one that said he was proud, but would never say it out loud. You got this, baby girl. Just like Wyoming. Just like Hell Week. One foot then the other. Don't let emotion decide. She blinked. He was gone. Just a hallucination, her brain filling in gaps, creating comfort where there was none. But the voice remained, the lesson, the philosophy, control above all else. Hour 5 and 29 minutes. She crested the final hill. The checkpoint was below. Harlan standing there, arms crossed, watching. She stumbled down the hill, legs barely working, each step a conscious effort, reached the checkpoint, dropped her pack, stood at attention. Harlan looked at his watch. 5 hours, 29 minutes. He was trying to hide his disappointment, failing. He'd wanted her to quit, wanted her to fail, wanted to be right. Kira reached into her cargo pocket, pulled out a worn photograph, creased, faded, protected in a plastic sleeve. She held it up. The photo showed a group of Marines, desert camouflage, Kuwait, 1991, after the Battle of Khafji. Exhausted faces, 1,000-yard stares, men who'd seen combat and survived. In the center, Master Sergeant James Vance, Wraith, holding his K-bar, eyes hard as stone. And there in the background, barely visible, a young officer, 27 years old, clean uniform, uncertain expression, Lieutenant Victor Harland. Kira's voice was quiet, calm. I know you served with my father, Admiral. Battle of Khafji, January 30th to 31st, 1991. He spoke highly of you. The color drained from Harlan's face, completely, like someone had pulled a plug and let all the blood run out. His hands started shaking, trembling. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. For a long moment, he just stared at the photo, at his younger self, at Wraith, at the ghost he'd been trying to bury for 34 years. Behind him, Callahan and Kane were watching. They saw Harlan's reaction, saw something break inside the Admiral, something fundamental. When Harlan finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper, hoarse, broken. Where did you get that? He gave it to me before he died, told me stories about Khafji, about the men he served with, about the ones who made it home. Harlan couldn't look at her, his eyes fixed on the ground. Day 2 starts in 4 hours. Rest if you can. He turned and walked away, unsteady, like the ground had shifted beneath him. Callahan approached, 58 years old, 2 decades of combat experience. He looked at Kira with new eyes. That was impressive, ma'am. 5 hours, 29 minutes with 60 pounds over that terrain. Most men don't make it under 6 hours. Kane just nodded. Professional. But there was something in her expression. Recognition, maybe. Respect. Kira sat down, drank water, ate an energy bar. Her body was screaming, every muscle fiber torn, every joint inflamed, but her mind was clear. 1 day down, 2 to go. She touched the black band on her wrist, felt the tattoo underneath. Wraith's blood, 1960 to 2021. She was just getting started. The 4 hours passed too quickly. Not enough for real sleep, not enough for recovery, just enough to stiffen up, to feel every injury, every strain. Kira sat against the concrete barrier, eyes closed, not sleeping, meditating, finding that cold place inside herself, the place where pain didn't matter, where exhaustion was just background noise, where there was only mission, only objective. At 0900, Harlan's vehicle pulled up. He stepped out holding a clipboard. Wouldn't look directly at Kira. His hands were steadier now, voice more controlled, but something had changed, something fundamental. Evolution 2, building clearance, hostage rescue scenario. Unknown number of hostages, unknown number of hostile forces. Time limit 30 minutes. Rules of engagement standard. Failure to secure all hostages results in automatic disqualification. He finally looked at her. Something in his eyes, something complicated. Questions? No, sir. Then get ready. The target building was an old training structure, 2 stories, multiple rooms, concrete, steel, perfect for close quarters combat training. But doing it while her body was already damaged from the march, while exhaustion was setting in, that was different. That was the test. She checked her rifle one more time, M4A1, loaded a fresh magazine, 30 rounds, standard ball ammunition for training, but in her mind, it was real. The scenario was real. The threat was real. That's how you trained. That's how you survived. Wraith's voice echoed in her memory. Should be is a phrase that gets people killed, baby girl. Should be enough ammo. Should be clear. Should be safe. Always have a backup plan. Always assume the worst. Always be ready. She loaded 2 extra magazines onto her vest, checked her Glock 19, 15 rounds plus 1 in the chamber, checked Wraith's K-bar, still strapped to her vest where it belonged, where it had been for every mission she'd run since he died. Good to go. Callahan gave her the signal. You're clear to begin. Clock starts when you breach the door. Kira approached the building, slow, controlled, scanning for threats, just like training, just like real world. No difference in her mind. She reached the door, tested the handle. Locked. Standard. She took 3 steps back, raised her boot, kicked hard just below the handle. The door crashed open. Clock started. She flowed through the doorway, low, fast, rifle up, scanning corners, training taking over, muscle memory from thousands of repetitions. Empty room. Doorway ahead, stairs to the right. She moved to the doorway, sliced the pie. Incremental angles, checking each sector before committing. Clear, advanced, long hallway, 3 doors. She moved down the hall, checking each door as she passed. Smooth, professional, efficient. First room, clear. Second room, clear. Third room, 2 hostages, zip tied to chairs, hoods over their heads. She cleared the rest of the room first. Corners, closets, anywhere a threat could hide. Then returned to the hostages. Removed the hoods. Stay here. I'm clearing the rest of the building. Don't move. The hostages nodded. Role players. Probably Marines volunteering for extra duty. But in Kira's mind, they were real. Civilians. Depending on her. Trusting her. She moved back to the stairs. Began climbing. Slow. Controlled. Every step deliberate. Checking angles. Listening. Feeling. And suddenly, she wasn't at Camp Pendleton anymore. She was in Wyoming, 16 years old, in the abandoned barn her father used for training. Wraith's voice behind her, calm, professional, teaching. Low and fast, baby girl, check your corners, violence of action. You don't give them time to think. You move like a ghost. You kill like a demon. Young Kiara practicing the movements, over and over, hundreds of repetitions, thousands, until it wasn't thinking anymore, until it was just muscle memory. Until her body moved without her mind directing it. This is how we cleared buildings in Mogadishu, Wraith said. October 3rd, 1993, Black Hawk Down. I was there with Force Recon. Watched Rangers and Delta go house to house. Watched good men die because they hesitated. Because they weren't smooth. Because they weren't fast enough. He grabbed her shoulders, looked her in the eyes. You will be smooth. You will be fast. You will be violent when violence is required. And you will come home. You understand me? Yes, sir. Say it. I will be smooth. I will be fast. I will come home. Present day, top of the stairs. Kira snapped back to reality. 3 rooms on the 2nd floor. She flowed into the first. Clear. Second room. 1 hostile target. Cardboard cutout. Armed. Threat. She engaged. Double tap to center mass. Training rounds marking the target. Threat down. Third room, 2 more hostages. She cleared them. Checked her time, 18 minutes. She moved back downstairs, cleared the first floor rooms again. Standard procedure, never assume, always verify. Found 1 more hostile target hiding in a closet. Engaged, double tap, target down. Total time, 23 minutes. She emerged from the building. Callahan was holding a stopwatch. His expression was carefully neutral, but Kira could see it in his eyes. He was impressed. Kane was less subtle. Jesus Christ, she muttered under her breath. Harland approached, looked at the time. Acceptable. But his voice said something different. His voice said, how did you do that?
His voice said, "Who are you really?" Callahan stepped forward. "Sir, I need to say something."
What is it, Gunny? Her technique. It's not standard Marine Corps CQB. It's something else. Explain. She's using hand signals I learned at Quantico in the 90s, old force recon protocols, and her entry tactics are more aggressive than we teach. She's combining force recon methodology with something more recent, something I've only seen in Joint Special Operations Command footage. Harlan's jaw tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying she's had specialized training, sir, well beyond what a normal Navy officer would receive. Harlan looked at Kira, really looked at her. Where did you learn to clear buildings, Lieutenant? My father taught me, sir. Your father? Yes, sir, Master Sergeant James Vance, Force Recon. He served in Mogadishu, Black Hawk Down, October 1993. He trained me from age 10. The color drained from Harlan's face again. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came. Finally, barely a whisper. James Vance was your father? Yes, sir. Harlan turned and walked away without another word, got in his vehicle, drove off. Callahan and Kane exchanged glances. Kane pulled out her tablet, started typing, looking up personnel files, digging deeper. Kira sat down, drank water. Her body was shutting down. 29 hours without real sleep. 30 kilometers forced march. High-stress building clearance. And she still had more than 2 days to go. But she'd made a promise to her father, to Captain Garrett, to herself. She wasn't going to quit. Callahan approached. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Go ahead, Gunny. How long did you train with your father? 14 years, from age 10 until he died 3 years ago. And he taught you force recon tactics? He taught me everything he knew. Said he was training me for a war he prayed I'd never fight. She looked up at Callahan. Turns out he was right about the war, wrong about the praying. Callahan nodded slowly. Your father, James Vance. I've heard stories. Kafji, Mogadishu. The man was a legend. He was. Ma'am, I need to tell you something. Your performance in that building, that wasn't just good. That was exceptional. I've evaluated Force Recon Marines, MARSOC operators. You just outperformed most of them. Kira said nothing, just touched the black band on her wrist. Callahan saw the gesture. What's under that band? Kira pulled it back, revealed the tattoo. Black script, simple. Wraith's Blood, 1960 to 2021. Callahan went very still. Wraith. That was your father's call sign in the Gulf War. Yes. Callahan stood at attention, rendered a slow, perfect salute. Your father saved my platoon commander's life in Kafji. I never got to thank him, but I can thank you for carrying on his legacy. Kira returned the salute. He would have appreciated that, Gunny. Kane approached. Her expression had changed. She'd found something in the personnel files, something important. Ma'am, your file, most of it's redacted. Naval Special Warfare classification, is that correct? Kira met her eyes, said nothing. Kane nodded, understanding. Understood, ma'am. Harlan's vehicle pulled up again. He stepped out, looked at Kira, wouldn't meet her eyes fully. Evolution 3 starts in 1 hour. Ambush response. Full tactical scenario. Be ready. The vehicle drove away. Kira closed her eyes, leaned her head back against the concrete, let the exhaustion wash over her. But she couldn't rest, not really, because the memories were coming now, flooding back. The ones she'd spent 3 years trying to bury. Afghanistan, September 12th, 2020, the day Captain Evan Garrett died. Evolution 3 was designed to break people mentally. An ambush scenario, high stress, multiple threats. Kira's simulated convoy would be hit by surprise attack. She had to respond under pressure, suppress enemy fire, maneuver her team, call for support, execute a tactical withdrawal, all while evaluators threw curveballs. Changed the scenario mid-mission, added complications, the kind of chaos that separated warriors from pretenders. Kira moved through the scenario like she'd done it 1,000 times before. Because she had. Not in training, in reality.
4 deployments, 78 missions, more ambushes than she could count. She laid down suppressing fire, 3-round bursts, controlled, precise. Used hand signals to direct her simulated team. Signals that weren't in the Marine Corps manual. Signals that came from somewhere else. Somewhere classified. Called for fire support on the radio. Proper 9-line format. Grid coordinates. Enemy disposition. Friendly positions. Requests for close air support. Professional. Calm. Like she was ordering coffee instead of calling in death from above. Executed a tactical withdrawal, bounding overwatch, one element moving while the other provided cover fire. Textbook. Perfect. Smooth as silk. Callahan noticed something. The way she signaled. The way she communicated. "Those aren't Marine signals," he said to Kane quietly. "No," Kane replied. "They're not. Naval Special Warfare uses those signals." "NSW. The SEALs." Callahan looked at her. "You think she's—" "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." The scenario ended. Kira had performed flawlessly. Not a single mistake. Zero hesitation. Just smooth professional execution. Harland was watching from the Tactical Operations Center. His expression was unreadable, but something was building behind his eyes. Realization. Understanding. Fear, maybe. Callahan approached Kira. "Ma'am, where did you learn those hand signals?" "Training, Gunny." "What kind of training?" Kira looked at him, expression unreadable. "The classified kind." Callahan nodded, said nothing more, but he pulled out his phone, made a call, asked questions. Quiet, discreet, professional. Meanwhile, Harlan sat in his vehicle, staring at that old photograph from Kuwait. Him and Wraith. 1991. 34 years ago. He was remembering things he'd spent decades trying to forget. January 30th, 1991. Battle of Khafji. Iraqi forces pushed across the border into Saudi Arabia. The Marines had to push them back, had to retake the city, street by street, building by building. Harland was a young lieutenant, 27 years old, first combat deployment. He'd trained for war his entire career. Academy, officer training, endless exercises and simulations. But training and reality are two different things. His unit took contact in the southern part of the city. Heavy machine gun fire from a building. PKM probably. Soviet made. 7.62 millimeter. Devastating at close range. 2 of his Marines went down. Wounded. Bleeding. Screaming. The sound cut through everything. Through the gunfire, through the explosions, through the chaos. Harlan froze. Just for a second. Just long enough. His mind went blank. Training evaporated. All those years of preparation meant nothing. He couldn't think, couldn't move, couldn't function. The Marines started taking more fire. The situation was falling apart. Men were dying, and their lieutenant was paralyzed. Then Master Sergeant James Vance appeared. Wraith. 31 years old, already a veteran of dozens of covert operations. Force recon, the best of the best. "Lieutenant, snap out of it!" Wraith's voice cut through the chaos, through Harlan's paralysis. "Get your Marines to cover, now!" Harlan tried to move, couldn't. Fear had him locked down completely. Wraith grabbed him, physically moved him behind a wall. "Stay here, I'll handle this." What happened next became legend. Wraith moved forward alone, under fire, threw a grenade through the window where the machine gun was positioned, rushed the building. His M16 jammed on entry. He transitioned to his K-bar knife. Close quarters, hand to hand. 3 Iraqi soldiers, professional soldiers, trained, armed, dangerous. Wraith killed all 3 with that knife. Brutal, efficient, deadly. Then he dragged both wounded Marines to safety. 200 meters, under fire, without hesitation. He saved their lives. Saved Harlan's career. Saved 8 Marines total that day. Wraith received the Navy Cross. The citation mentioned his complete disregard for personal safety, his decisive action in the face of overwhelming enemy fire. It didn't mention Harlan freezing, didn't mention the young lieutenant who couldn't do his job when it mattered most. The Marine Corps promoted Harlan 6 months later, gave him credit for the operation, called him a hero, built his career on that day. But Harlan knew the truth, and so did Wraith. They never spoke about it. But Harlan spent the next 34 years carrying that burden, that shame, that knowledge that he wasn't the warrior everyone thought he was.
And he'd spent 34 years resenting James Vance for being everything Harlan wasn't. Now, sitting in his vehicle at Camp Pendleton, Harlan realized something. He wasn't testing Kira Vance to prove women didn't belong in combat. He was testing her because she reminded him of her father. Because she had Wraith's eyes, Wraith's calm, Wraith's absolute control. And it terrified him. Because if she was anything like her father, she was going to succeed. She was going to prove him wrong. Again. Just like Wraith had done 34 years ago. Evolution 4 didn't start until sunset. A hostage negotiation scenario. Psychological warfare. Designed to trigger emotional responses. To make people crack under pressure. Harlan himself played the hostage taker over the radio. Years of command had taught him how to read people, how to find their pressure points, how to exploit weaknesses, how to break them. The scenario began. Kira took up a position behind cover, established communication with the hostage taker, started negotiating, professional, calm, by the book. Harlan's voice came through cold and aggressive. "Who am I talking to?" "This is Lieutenant Vance, United States Navy. I'm here to resolve this peacefully." "Navy, you're a long way from water, sweetheart." Kira's voice remained flat, professional. "Sir, we can end this without anyone getting hurt. Tell me what you want." "What I want?" Harlan's voice dripped with venom. "I want to know how many people you've killed, Lieutenant. You're military. You've killed, haven't you?" Silence, just for a moment. Then Kira continued. "Sir, this isn't about me. Let's focus on... It's absolutely about you. You're standing there pretending to care about hostages, but you're a killer. You've got blood on your hands, don't you? How many? 10? 20? Do you remember their faces? Do you see them when you close your eyes?" Callahan was watching through binoculars. He saw Kira's left hand grip the radio a little tighter, just slightly, just enough. "Sir, this is crossing a line," he said quietly to Kane. Kane nodded. "This isn't standard protocol. He's trying to break her." On the radio, Kira continued negotiating. Her voice never wavered, never showed emotion. She worked through the scenario step by step, professional, controlled, ice in the veins. After 30 minutes, she successfully negotiated the hostage release. Perfect execution. But when she stood up, Callahan saw her hand shaking, just slightly, just enough. Harlan emerged from the command vehicle, looked at Kira. Acceptable performance. Day 2 is complete. Day 3 starts at 0500, the final evolution. 20 hours continuous. Most candidates quit halfway through. I expect you'll do the same. He walked away, got in his vehicle, drove off. Callahan approached Kira. "Ma'am, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Gunny." That was inappropriate what he did, asking those questions. He was doing his job, testing my psychological limits. Still, it was wrong. Kira looked at him, really looked at him. "He's right though, Gunny. I do have blood on my hands. 32 kills across 4 deployments. Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen. I remember every single one." Callahan went quiet. Kira continued. "But I don't regret them. They were enemy combatants trying to kill me or my team. I did what warriors do, what my father taught me to do. I kept control. I finished the mission. I brought my people home." She paused. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Most of them, anyway. She walked away before Callahan could respond. Kane watched her go, then turned to Callahan. "She's not just Force Recon trained." "No." "You think she's a SEAL?" "I think we're about to find out. I made some calls. Her file is locked up tight, but I got confirmation of one thing. She received the Navy Cross. September 2020. Helmand Province. Details classified." "The Navy Cross." Kane's eyes went wide. "Jesus Christ." "Yeah, whatever she did to earn that, it was serious. It was real. It was combat." They stood in silence, watching Kira disappear into the distance.
A young woman carrying weight they couldn't see, fighting battles they couldn't understand, honoring a legacy they were only beginning to comprehend. Tomorrow would be the final test. 20 hours continuous, the hardest evolution. The one that broke almost everyone. But Kira Vance wasn't everyone. She was Wraith's daughter, and she'd made a promise to a dying man, a promise she intended to keep, no matter what it cost. Kira found a quiet spot away from the evaluators, away from the vehicles and the equipment and the eyes that watched her, sat down against a tree, closed her eyes. But she couldn't rest. Not really. The memories were too strong now, too close to the surface. Afghanistan. Helmand Province, September 12th, 2020. SEAL Team 3.
Charlie Platoon. Mission: high-value target capture in Taliban-controlled territory. Helicopter insertion at dawn. Standard direct action raid, the kind they'd done dozens of times before. Kira was Reaper 4, Breacher, automatic rifleman, the youngest member of the platoon. 24 years old, the only woman. She'd proven herself, earned her place, earned the respect of men who didn't give it easily. Her team leader was Captain Evan Garrett, Reaper 7, 32 years old, 5 deployments, one of the best operators in naval special warfare, smart, calm, professional. He'd been skeptical when Kira joined the team, didn't think women belonged in combat, but she'd proven him wrong, mission after mission, evolution after evolution. She'd earned his trust, his respect, eventually his friendship. They'd become close, not romantic, but the kind of bond that forms between warriors who trust each other with their lives, brothers, sisters, family. The CH-47 took fire on approach, RPG, rocket-propelled grenade, Soviet-made. Taliban had hundreds of them. The rocket hit the tail rotor at 200 feet above ground level. The bird started spinning. Pilot fought for control. Lost. Physics won. They crashed hard. The impact was catastrophic. Metal screaming, men screaming, fire everywhere. Kira came to with blood in her mouth, ears ringing, vision blurred. The helicopter was on its side, burning, smoke filling the cabin. She pulled herself out through a broken window, fell 3 feet to the ground, rolled, got up. Then she saw Garrett, trapped under debris, lower body crushed, pelvis shattered, femoral artery bleeding, blood everywhere. Too much blood. Taliban fighters were closing in, maybe 50 meters away. She could hear them. A K-47 fire, PKM machine gun. The distinctive crack of rounds passing close. Too close. Garrett's voice was weak, strained. "Leave me. Get to the rally point." Kira grabbed him, started dragging. "Negative, sir. I'm not leaving you." That's an order, Vance. Respectfully, sir, fuck your order. Garrett was 6'2", 210 pounds, plus gear, 70 pounds of body armor, ammunition, weapons, equipment, 280 pounds total. Kira was 5'7", 145 pounds. Fireman's carry was impossible. She wasn't strong enough, didn't have the leverage. She used the TCCC drag technique instead, tactical combat casualty care. Grab the drag handle on his body armor, pull, use legs, not back, keep low, keep moving. 200 meters under sustained fire, PKM rounds churning up the dirt around her, 7.62 millimeter, heavy caliber. One hit would kill her, would kill him, would end everything. She pulled with everything she had, every muscle fiber screaming, every joint on fire, her lungs burning, her vision narrowing. But she kept moving. One step, then another, then another. 50 meters. She laid down covering fire with her M4. 3-round bursts, suppressive, not aimed. Just enough to make them keep their heads down. Another 50 meters, dragging, pulling, her hands cramping, her arms giving out. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop, wouldn't stop. 100 meters. She reached a depression in the ground, cover, some protection from the fire. She set up a defensive position, returned fire, more controlled now, more deliberate, trying to slow them down, buy time. Called for medevac on the radio. "Reaper 7 is critical. I need immediate extraction. Grid follows." She treated Garrett's wounds while she called it in. Tourniquet on the leg, high and tight, stopping the arterial bleed. Pressure dressing on the abdominal wounds. IV access, fluids. Everything she could do with the limited supplies she had. Garrett grabbed her hand. His grip was weak, trembling. "Kira, stop." She looked at him. His eyes were starting to glaze, the light fading. She knew what that meant. She'd seen it before, too many times. "Sir, stay with me. Medevac is inbound. 5 minutes out." "You did good, kid." His voice was barely a whisper now. "You got Wraith's blood in you, just like your old man." "Don't talk like that. You're going to make it." "Tell my wife I love her. Tell Sarah her daddy was thinking about her. Tell her I'm proud of her. Tell her to be brave." "You tell her yourself. You're going to make it, sir." But she knew better. She'd seen enough combat casualties to recognize the signs. The pale skin, the shallow breathing, the dilated pupils, the body shutting down. Garrett smiled. Weak. Fading. "Finish it, Vance. Don't let them break you. Keep control like Wraith taught you." "I will, sir. I promise." Good girl. He died 18 minutes after the crash. Kira held his hand the whole time, felt the moment his pulse stopped, felt the moment he left. The medevac arrived 2 minutes later. They extracted Garrett's body, extracted Kira. She spent 2 days in medical, treated for minor injuries, dehydration, exhaustion. Then she went back to work. 6 months later, they gave her the Navy Cross. The citation said she'd shown extraordinary heroism, complete disregard for personal safety. Said she'd carried her wounded team leader 200 meters under sustained enemy fire. Said she'd held a defensive position against overwhelming odds. Said she'd saved 3 other members of her platoon that day. It didn't mention that she'd failed, that Garrett died anyway, that she'd made him a promise to maintain control, to finish the mission, to never let them break her. A promise she'd been keeping for 3 years. Present day, Camp Pendleton. Kira opened her eyes, looked at the black band on her wrist, pulled it back, revealed the full tattoo. Wraith's blood, 1960 to 2021. Below it, in smaller script, Garrett/Reaper-7/2020. 2 men, 2 promises, 2 ghosts watching over her. She stood up, checked her gear, prepared for the final day. 20 hours, 5 evolutions, everything Harlan could throw at her. She was going to finish it. Not for Harlan, not for herself, for Wraith, for Garrett, for the promise she'd made. Control above all else, always. 0500 hours, day 3. The final evolution. 20 hours continuous operation. Navigation across rough terrain to 3 separate objectives. Execute a raid on a target building. Handle a mass casualty situation. Then escape and evade while a hunter force tracked her through the mountains. It was designed to be impossible. Most candidates quit by hour 10. Nobody had ever completed all 20 hours without major failures. The 90% failure rate wasn't an exaggeration. It was reality. Harlan was betting Kira would break. He was wrong. She started with the navigation. 3 objectives, each 10 kilometers apart. Mountainous terrain, no trails, just compass and map. Old school. The way Wraith had taught her in Wyoming. Hour 1 through 8, she moved steady, step after step. Her body was already damaged from 2 days of abuse. 48 hours of accumulated exhaustion, dehydration, muscle fatigue, blisters that had burst and bled and formed again, minor injuries that weren't minor anymore. But her mind was clear, because she'd learned something from her father years ago. The body quits when the mind lets it. If you can control your mind, you can control everything. She reached the first objective at hour 7, a mock enemy compound. She had to breach, clear, and secure intelligence. She flowed through the building like water, smooth, fast, violent when required.
The techniques her father taught her in that Wyoming barn. The techniques she perfected through BUD/S. The techniques she'd used in real combat in 4 different countries. Callahan watched through the observation camera. His expression was grim. She's been going for 50 hours straight. How is she still moving? Kane shook her head. Training? Discipline? Something else.
Her father's ghost, Callahan muttered. Wraith is in her head, pushing her forward. Second objective, hour 12, mass casualty scenario, 5 wounded. She had 10 minutes to triage and treat. Kira moved with the confidence of someone who'd done this under real fire. Applied tourniquets, packed wounds, called for medevac with perfect 9-line format. Standard, professional, automatic. But Callahan saw something else. A moment where Kira's hands hesitated over one of the wounded. Just for a second. Her eyes distant. She was remembering. Remembering Afghanistan. Remembering Garrett. Then she snapped back, finished the treatment. 8 minutes, 30 seconds. Harlan's voice came over the radio. Flat. Cold. Acceptable. He didn't sound happy. Third objective, hour 14. The raid. Breach a fortified position. Clear multiple rooms. Secure a high-value target. Kira attacked with controlled aggression. Used breaching charges. Threw flashbangs. Moved through the structure with the speed and precision of an operator with years of experience. Because she had years of experience. 78 missions. 4 deployments. She'd done this for real, against real enemies, with real consequences. Callahan couldn't stay quiet anymore. He keyed his radio. "Sir, I need to say something." Harlan's voice came back, tense. "What is it?" "She's not just force recon trained. She's naval special warfare. She's a SEAL." Static. Long pause. Then, "That's impossible. Women weren't allowed in." "Sir, BUD/S has been integrated since 2016. Class 340. I checked. She graduated in 2017. SEAL Team 3. More silence. When Harlan spoke again, his voice was shaking. "James Vance's daughter is a Navy SEAL?" "Yes, sir. And we've been testing her like she's some inexperienced officer?" "Yes, sir." Harlan sat down, put his head in his hands. Kane approached him. "Sir, there's more. I pulled what I could from her record. She received the Navy Cross in 2020. 32 confirmed kills. 4 combat deployments. She's one of the most decorated female operators in U.S. military history. And I slapped her in front of 1,000 Marines." "Yes, sir." "This isn't a test anymore. This is a disaster." Kane's voice was quiet, hard. "It's only a disaster if she fails, sir. And if she doesn't, then you destroyed the career of a war hero out of petty resentment." Harlan said nothing, just sat there, staring at nothing. On the course, Kira had completed the raid. She was moving to the final phase, escape and evasion. Hour 16. She had to evade a hunter force for 4 hours. 6 trained trackers, former Force Recon and Marine Raiders, experts at manhunting. Harlan made a decision he'd later regret. He added 4 more hunters, 10 total, against the rules, but he wanted to see her fail, wanted to prove she wasn't as good as everyone thought, wanted to salvage something from this disaster. The hunters spread out, started tracking, using techniques learned over decades. Reading sign, following trails, working as a team. Kira was already gone. She used every technique Wraith had taught her, created false trails, broke obvious branches, left obvious footprints pointing the wrong direction, then doubled back on her own tracks, walked backward in her own footsteps, moved through water to break her scent, used terrain to her advantage, stayed on hard ground, avoided soft soil. Hour 17. The hunters were frustrated. They couldn't find her. She disappeared like smoke, like a ghost. Hour 18. One hunter thought he had her, closed in on movement in the brush, found nothing but a carefully placed pack, a decoy. She was already gone. Hour 19. Kira was supposed to reach an extraction point. She arrived 30 minutes early, sat down, started cleaning her rifle. Calm, professional, like she'd been on a morning walk instead of 55 hours of hell. The hunter force was still looking for her 2 hours later. Callahan keyed his radio. All hunters, terminate exercise. Subject has reached extraction. The hunters converged on the extraction point, found Kiera sitting calmly, rifle clean, gear squared away, waiting. One of them approached, a grizzled Force Recon veteran, 59 years old, 25 years in. He looked at Kiera, shook his head, smiled. Ma'am, I've been hunting people for 20 years. You just ghosted us like we were boot camp recruits. Where the hell did you learn that? Kiera looked up, that cold, unwavering stare. My father, Wraith. He learned it in the Gulf War, taught me when I was a kid. I've been practicing for 20 years. The hunter laughed, a sound of pure respect, pure amazement. Wraith's daughter. God damn. Should have known. Nobody ghosts like Wraith. Harlan's vehicle pulled up. He stepped out, looked at Kiera. She was covered in dirt, bleeding from a dozen small cuts, swaying slightly from exhaustion. 55 hours. Maybe 4 hours of sleep total. Her body was shutting down. But she was standing. She'd completed all 20 hours. Every evolution. 0 failures. Harlan opened his mouth to speak. Then Colonel Grayson's vehicle arrived. He stepped out holding a manila folder. His expression was grim, angry. Behind him, 3 senior officers emerged from a second vehicle. Captains, commanders, people who didn't show up to routine training exercises. This was about to become official. Grayson stood beside his vehicle, his voice carried across the training area. Loud, clear, formal. Admiral Harland, we need to talk. Now. Harlan looked at them, then at Kiera. She was still standing at attention, swaying, but standing. Grayson walked toward Harland. Admiral, I need you to understand something before I open this folder. What you did 3 days ago was assault. What you've been doing for the last 72 hours could be considered harassment and retaliation. The only reason you're not in custody right now is because Lieutenant Vance refused to file charges. Harlan's face went pale. Colonel, I'm not finished. Grayson's voice was cold, hard. You wanted to test her. You wanted to prove that women don't belong in combat roles, that they're not good enough, not tough enough, not warrior enough. He opened the folder. Let me tell you who you've been testing, sir. The morning sun was climbing higher now. Not a single person moved. The only sound was wind through the hills and Grayson's voice. Steady, clear, reading from the file. Lieutenant Kiera Vance, 29 years old, graduate of the United States Naval Academy, class of 2016, commissioned as an ensign, surface warfare officer track, served 1 year aboard USS John Paul Jones. Grayson paused. Then she did something extraordinary. She volunteered for basic underwater demolition SEAL training. BUD/S class 340. First fully integrated class. Started with 230 candidates. Graduated with 36. He looked up from the folder, looked at Harlan. Lieutenant Vance was one of them. 23 years old, 5'7", 140 pounds. She completed Hell Week. She completed the full BUD/S pipeline. She became a Navy SEAL. Callahan muttered something under his breath. Kane's eyes went wide. The hunter force stood frozen. Grayson continued. She was assigned to SEAL Team 3. Charlie Platoon. Call sign, Reaper 4. She completed 4 combat deployments between 2018 and 2021. Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen. 78 missions total. 32 confirmed enemy kills. The folder had pages and pages. Grayson was only reading the highlights. December 2018. Operation in Syria. Her platoon ambushed by ISIS fighters. Lieutenant Vance provided covering fire while her team maneuvered to safety. Killed 4 enemy combatants. Received Bronze Star with Valor. He turned a page. June 2019, Iraq. Vehicle-borne IED attack on her convoy. Lieutenant Vance pulled 2 wounded SEALs from a burning vehicle under enemy fire. Returned fire while treating casualties. Received Silver Star. Another page. March 2020, Yemen. Direct action raid on Al-Qaeda compound. Lieutenant Vance was primary breacher, first through the door, cleared 6 rooms under fire,
Secured high-value target. Received Bronze Star with Valor. Grayson's voice got quieter, heavier. September 12th, 2020. Helmand Province, Afghanistan. Her platoon's helicopter took an RPG during insertion. The bird crashed. Lieutenant Vance was knocked unconscious. When she came to, she found her team leader, Captain Evan Garrett, critically wounded. Taliban fighters closing in from multiple directions. Kira's expression didn't change, but Callahan saw her left hand close into a fist, so tight her knuckles went white. Lieutenant Vance carried Captain Garrett 200 meters through open ground under sustained automatic weapons fire. She set up a defensive position, returned fire with her rifle until she ran out of ammunition, then with her sidearm. She called for medevac. She treated Captain Garrett's wounds. She held that position for 18 minutes until extraction arrived. Grayson looked up. His eyes were wet. Captain Garrett died from his wounds, but Lieutenant Vance saved 3 other members of her team that day. She was the last one on the helicopter, refused to leave until every one of her brothers was accounted for. He held up a certificate, Navy Cross citation, for extraordinary heroism in combat, for complete disregard for personal safety, for refusing to abandon her wounded team leader despite overwhelming enemy fire, for actions above and beyond the call of duty. Silence. Complete and total silence. Somewhere on that parade ground 3 days ago, 1,000 Marines had watched an admiral strike a lieutenant. They'd stood in shocked silence, witnesses to an assault, to an injustice. Now they knew the truth. Lieutenant Kira Vance wasn't some inexperienced officer who didn't belong. She was a Navy SEAL, Navy Cross recipient, one of the most decorated operators in special warfare. The story would spread through Camp Pendleton, through the entire Marine Corps, through Naval Special Warfare Command, not as a scandal, but as a lesson. About assumptions, about prejudice, about the cost of judging warriors by anything other than their actions. Kira didn't care about vindication, didn't need the recognition, but she hoped that somewhere a young female officer would hear this story, would understand that she belonged, that she was enough, that she could do this. That's what Wraith would have wanted. That's what Evan died believing, that the next generation would be better, stronger, more complete. Grayson walked toward Kira. She came to attention. He stood in front of her. Lieutenant Vance, these officers are here as witnesses. What happened 3 days ago was wrong. What happened over the last 72 hours was wrong. You deserve better than this. Sir, Let me finish. Grayson's voice was gentle now. You are one of the most decorated special operations soldiers in the United States military. You have served with honor, courage, and distinction. You have earned your place 1,000 times over, and I am proud to serve alongside you. He extended his hand. Welcome to Camp Pendleton, Lieutenant. Officially, this time. Kira shook his hand. Her face was still calm, still controlled, but there were tears in her eyes now, silent, streaming down her dirty face. Callahan stepped forward, came to attention, saluted. Ma'am, I have trained Force Recon Marines for 15 years. I have never seen anyone perform like you just did. It has been an honor, Kane saluted. Ma'am, you're an inspiration. Thank you for your service. One by one, the Hunter Force came forward, saluted, showed respect. These were hard men, veteran operators. They didn't give respect easily, but they gave it now. Harlan stood frozen, watching it all happen. His face was ash gray, his hands trembling. Grayson turned to him. Admiral Harlan, you will report to ComNav Air Pacific Headquarters at 0800 tomorrow morning. You will explain why you struck a Navy Cross recipient, why you attempted to destroy her career out of personal vendetta, why you violated the Uniform Code of Military Justice and basic human decency. Colonel, I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Grayson's voice was sharp, cutting. You assumed, you judged. You let your prejudice and your ego override your duty. That's not leadership. That's cowardice. Harlan flinched like he'd been slapped. Grayson continued.
Effective immediately, you are relieved of your oversight duties for this training program. You will have no further contact with Lieutenant Vance. You will submit your formal letter of apology within 24 hours. Is that understood? Yes, sir. Grayson nodded to one of the senior officers. Captain Morrison will escort you back to base. Harlan started toward his vehicle, then stopped, turned back, looked at Kira. Lieutenant Vance. She looked at him, expression unreadable. Your father, James. I served with him in Kafji, January 1991. He saved my life. Kira said nothing. I never thanked him. I spent 34 years resenting him instead, because he was everything I wasn't, everything I wanted to be but couldn't. His voice cracked. And when I saw you standing in that formation, I saw him, and it terrified me. Tears streaming down his face now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You deserve better. Your father deserved better. I failed you both. Kara was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Her voice was soft but clear. My father told me about Kafji, about the firefight, about the Marines who were wounded, about the young lieutenant who froze. Harlan couldn't meet her eyes. He never mentioned your name, never spoke badly about you. Just said that war is hell and people react differently. Some freeze, some fight, some run. All of it is human. She paused. He said the measure of a warrior isn't what happens in the first moment of fear. It's what you do with the rest of your life. Whether you learn from it, grow from it, become better. She pulled something from her pocket. The old photograph from Kuwait. Wraith and Harland, 1991. He kept this photo on his desk in Wyoming until the day he died. When I asked him about the people in it, he said they were his brothers. All of them. Even the ones who struggled. She handed the photo to Harland. He forgave you a long time ago, Admiral. Maybe it's time you forgave yourself. Harlan took the photo, tears streaming down his face. Couldn't speak, just nodded, turned, walked away. Climbed into the vehicle, it drove off. The senior officers departed as well, leaving just Grayson, Callahan, Kane, and Kira. Callahan approached Grayson. Sir, with respect, why didn't we know who she was? Because that's what she wanted, Grayson said. After Evan Garrett died, Lieutenant Vance requested assignment to training duties. She didn't want recognition, didn't want special treatment. She just wanted to do the work quietly, train the next generation. He looked at Kira. She's been here 6 months, running our advanced tactics program, teaching courses that are making our Marines better operators, and not one person knew who she really was. Why? Kane asked. Kira spoke. Her voice was quiet, tired. Because it's not about me. It's about the mission, about preparing warriors to survive combat, about bringing people home. That's what my father taught me. That's what Evan taught me. The job matters. The ego doesn't. Callahan shook his head. Ma'am, you're remarkable. No, Gunny, I'm just my father's daughter. Grayson handed Kira a bottle of water. Lieutenant, you're off duty for 72 hours. That's an order. Get medical attention, get rest, get food. Thank you, sir. Grayson started toward his vehicle, then stopped, turned back. Kira, your father would be so proud of you. James was my closest friend. He saved my life in Mogadishu in '93. I owed him everything. When he was dying, he called me, asked me to watch over you. His voice got thick. I've been watching you for 3 years. Watching you carry the weight of Evan's death. Watching you hide who you are. But you need to know something. You are the warrior Wraith hoped you'd be. You are the operator Evan believed you were. Don't hide that light. Kira nodded. Couldn't speak. Too many emotions. Grayson climbed in his vehicle, drove away. Callahan and Kane packed up the equipment, gave Kira space. She stood alone in the training area, sun climbing higher, the smell of dust and sage in the air. She touched the black band on her wrist, pulled it back, looked at the tattoo.
Wraith's Blood, 1960 to 2021. Garrett/Reaper-7/2020. I kept my promise, she whispered. I kept control. I finished the mission. I made you proud. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of the ocean from miles away. Somewhere, James Vance and Evan Garrett were at peace. And Kira, for the first time in 3 years, felt something other than control and grief. She felt whole. 1 week later, Harlan visited Kira at the rifle range, civilian clothes, looking older, tired, but somehow at peace. Lieutenant Vance, I didn't expect to see you, Admiral. I'm not Admiral anymore, just Victor. They gave me the option to retire quietly. I took it. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was deserved. He paused. I came to say goodbye. And to give you something. He pulled out an envelope, worn, yellowed with age. After you gave me that photograph, I went home. Started going through old boxes. Found this. It's a letter. Your father wrote it in 1991, right after Kafji. He never sent it. Kira took the envelope. Her hands were shaking. Why are you giving this to me? Because you deserve to know what kind of man your father really was. And because I spent 34 years believing a lie about him. About myself. Harlan turned to leave, stopped. One more thing. I'm driving to DC next month. Going to the Veterans Memorial. Your father's name isn't on it because he survived. But I'm going to stand there and say thank you anyway. For Kafji, for saving my life, for being the warrior I wasn't. He met her eyes. You honor him every day, Lieutenant, by being the operator you are, by leading with integrity, by keeping control when the world is burning. That's his legacy, and it's in good hands. Harlan walked away. Kira sat down, opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, her father's distinctive script. February 3rd, 1991, Saudi Arabia. To my daughter, if I'm blessed to have one. I'm writing this from a field hospital, 2 days after the Battle of Kafji. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. That's fine, I've made peace with it. But there are things I need to say. I killed 3 men 2 days ago, with my knife. Up close. Personal. I can still see their faces when I close my eyes. They were Iraqi soldiers. They were trying to kill my Marines. I did what I had to do. I don't feel like a hero. I feel like a survivor who got lucky. The Navy is giving me a medal, the Navy Cross. But medals don't bring back the dead. Not ours, not theirs. If you're reading this, I want you to know something about being a warrior. It's not about loving combat. It's about being willing to stand between evil and innocence. It's not about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear. It's not about killing. It's about protecting those who can't protect themselves. Control above all else. Stay controlled. Stay compassionate. Be the warrior the world needs, not the one it expects. Semper Fidelis, Master Sergeant James Vance. Kira read the letter 3 times, silent tears streaming down her face. She placed it in her chest pocket, over her heart. I got your message, Dad, she whispered. I understand now. I'm ready. 2 days later, Commander Patricia Harmon from Naval Special Warfare Group 1 arrived at Pendleton, meeting in Grayson's office. Kira, Grayson, Harmon. Lieutenant Vance, I'll get straight to the point. Naval Special Warfare Command has been watching your career. Before Evan Garrett died, he submitted a recommendation. Said you were the best operator he'd worked with. Natural tactical mind. Unshakable under fire. Born for this work. She pulled out a folder. After his death, you requested training duty. We approved it because we understood. Losing your team leader. The trauma. The grief. You needed time. Yes, ma'am. It's been 3 years. The question is, what do you want to do now? Kira was quiet. She'd been avoiding this question. Harmon continued. You have options. You can stay here, continue training Marines, do excellent work that's honorable and needed. Or you can come back to the teams. She opened the folder. SEAL Team 3 is standing up a new platoon. They need an experienced operator. Someone who's been there, done it, survived it. They want you as platoon leader. She paused. Call sign Reaper 7. Evan's position. Kira felt like she'd been punched in the chest. Reaper 7. Garrett's call sign. His position. His legacy. Ma'am, I don't know if I'm ready. Nobody's ever ready, Harmon said. Evan wasn't ready when they made him platoon leader. But he grew into it. Because he cared about his people. Because he led from the front.
Because he understood that leadership isn't about being the toughest or the smartest. It's about bringing everyone home. She leaned forward. You carried him 200 meters under fire. You held that position. You refused to leave anyone behind. That's what leadership looks like. That's what we need. Kira looked at Grayson. Sir, what do you think? Grayson was quiet for a long moment. I think your father trained you to be a warrior. Evan showed you how to be a leader. The question is whether you're ready to step into that role. I'm scared. What if I fail? What if people die because of my decisions? Then you'll carry that weight, Grayson said. Just like Evan did. Just like your father did. Just like every leader in combat does. But you'll give those warriors the best chance of survival because you've been there. You know what it takes. Harmon spoke again. Lieutenant, I'm not going to pressure you. This is your decision. But I want you to know something. When I joined NSW Command in 1996, I was one of the first women. The men didn't want me there. I spent years proving myself. What changed? I stopped trying to prove I was as good as the men. Started proving I was the best operator I could be. Stopped caring what they thought. Started focusing on the mission. And eventually respect came, because I earned it through action. She stood up. You've already earned it, Lieutenant. You earned it in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. You earned it when you carried Evan through that hell. You earned it over 72 hours that would break most men. She walked to the door, stopped, turned back. The teams need you, but more than that, the next generation of female operators needs to see you, needs to know it's possible, that they can do this, that they belong. Harmon left. Kira sat in silence. Grayson walked to the window. Your father and I had a conversation once. Mogadishu, October 4th, 1993. The night after the Black Hawk went down. We'd just finished an 18-hour firefight. Lost good men. Both of us running on adrenaline and grief. He turned back. I asked him how he did it. How he stayed calm when everything was chaos. How he led when he was scared. You know what he said? What? He said fear is a gift. It sharpens you, makes you alert, makes you careful. The trick is using it without letting it control you. The best leaders are the ones who feel the fear and do the job anyway. Grayson walked over, put his hand on Kira's shoulder. You're scared. Good. That means you understand the stakes. That means you'll be careful with people's lives. That means you'll make the hard decisions for the right reasons. What if I'm not my father? You're not supposed to be your father. You're supposed to be you, Kira Vance, Reaper 4, soon to be Reaper 7, the warrior who kept control, the operator who brought her people home, the leader who learned from the best and became something new. Kira stood up, looked out the window, at the parade ground, at the spot where Harlan struck her, where this whole thing started. She touched the black band on her wrist, felt the tattoo underneath. Wraith's blood. Garrett. Reaper 7. The weight of legacy, the burden of promise, the honor of service. When do I start? Grayson smiled. Team 3 wants you in 2 weeks. That gives you time to wrap up here. Say goodbye to your students. I'll be ready, sir. I know you will.
He extended his hand. Your father would be so proud, Kira. So would Evan. They're watching, and they're smiling. They shook hands. Kira left the office, walked down the hallway, out into the California sun. She felt different, lighter, like a weight she'd been carrying for 3 years had finally lifted. She wasn't hiding anymore, wasn't running. She was Reaper 4, soon to be Reaper 7. Daughter of Wraith, student of Garrett, warrior, leader, SEAL. And she was ready, no matter what came next, no matter what the cost. She would maintain control. She would finish the mission. She would bring them all home. Always. 6 months later, classified location, Middle East, pre-dawn, December 2025. SEAL Team 3, Charlie Platoon, Operation Crimson Dawn. Mission, capture high-value Taliban commander. Direct action raid, 8 operators. Lieutenant Kira Vance, call sign Reaper 7, platoon leader. The CH-47 landed 2 kilometers from the target. Wheels touched dirt, ramp dropped, the team flowed out. Smooth, professional, silent. Kira led them through the darkness, night vision turning the world green. 2 kilometers on foot, fast, quiet, efficient. They reached the compound. Breaching charges placed, flashbangs ready, team stacked, waiting for her signal. Kira keyed her radio. All Reaper elements, stand by for breach. 3, 2, 1. Explosive entry, door blown off its hinges, flashbangs through the opening.
Then the team flowing in like water. 12 rooms. 4 hostiles engaged. HVT secured. 0 friendly casualties. 47 minutes from infill to exfil. Kira keyed her radio. All Reaper elements, target secure. Say again, target secure. 0 friendly casualties. Requesting immediate exfil. Reaper 7, solid copy. Exfil inbound. ETA 6 minutes. Outstanding work. The team secured the perimeter. Waited. Kira looked at each face in the green glow of night vision. Petty Officer Martinez, 26. 2 kids back in San Diego. He'd taken point on the breach. Smooth, professional, no hesitation. Chief Warrant Officer Chen, 34, 10 years in. He'd secured the HVT. Perfect execution. Textbook. The youngest, Seaman Cooper, 23. First deployment. First real combat. He'd held his sector, didn't freeze, didn't panic, did his job exactly as trained. This was what leadership meant. Not the tactics, not the shooting, not even the mission success. This. Bringing them home, keeping them alive, sending them back to their families. Evan Garrett's voice echoed in her memory from 3 years ago, before Afghanistan, before the crash, before everything changed. Leadership isn't about being the toughest, Vance. It's about making sure your people trust you to bring them home. That's the only metric that matters. She'd failed him, let him die in her arms, carried that weight for 3 years. But today, she'd succeeded. Today, everyone came home. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that's what Evan meant when he told her to finish it. Not just the missions, but the promise, the legacy, the responsibility. Maybe she was finally ready to carry it. The helicopter arrived. They loaded the HVT, loaded the team. Wheels up, sunrise breaking over the desert, golden light washing across the sand. The team exhausted but alive, all 8 of them, coming home. A message came through on Kira's radio. NSW command. Reaper 7, mission success. Exceptional leadership under fire. Your father would be proud. Garrett would be proud. Bravo Zulu, well done. Kira touched the black band on her wrist, felt both tattoos beneath. Wraith's blood, 1960 to 2021. Garrett, Reaper 7, 2020. She whispered, so quiet only she could hear. I kept my promise, Dad. I kept my promise, Evan. I kept control. I finished the mission. I brought them all home.
She looked at her team, all 8 operators, alive, safe, heading home to their families. This was what leadership looked like. Not the shooting, not the tactics. This, bringing everyone home. Grayson's voice echoed in her memory. Being a warrior means carrying the weight so others don't have to. You've earned the right to carry that weight, Kira. Now go be the leader they need. Kira closed her eyes. Moment of peace. She'd earned this. They all had. The helicopter banked toward base, the sun climbing higher. Another mission complete. Another promise kept. Lieutenant Kira Vance.
Reaper 7, daughter of Wraith, legacy of Garrett. Warrior, leader, seal, control above all else, always.